Hey guys, welcome back to the YouTube. As usual, I'm just gonna follow the Twitter here. If you're here, you've probably already seen the Twitter though, so we're gonna start. Um, I'm gonna start with the quick intro that I expect this to be a long one. I want to do some more in-depth Wild Rift stuff. I just haven't really had the opportunity. I don't think that a lot of games were worth talking about from what I've seen. And like I'm trying to avoid just talking about games where it's just straight up like bashing on the players the entire time. Like I want to talk where there's games that like have something interesting going on and like that are just like good games in general cuz like I wanted to do the review of the Afro run, but like watching a lot of those games back, I was just like both these teams are just playing poorly. And it's not I don't want to watch that, right? Because I'm going to pause. I'm going to talk about these games for probably an hour plus, and I don't want to talk about a team playing like shit for more than 15 minutes on average. It's just not enjoyable. Um, that said, I did want to talk about these games because this was two really close games. And although FPX did lose, I think it was a really good showing, and so I wanted to highlight. I think why FPX might have gotten slightly underrated because of this. I think that this was like a very good team that like is not one to sleep on in terms of what's actually happening. I'm gonna be going into a ton of depth, and I'm gonna be trying to like apply a bunch of concepts that I'm just practicing and learning as well. So it's going to be a long one. Expect that. Yeah, that's the preface. Now let's get into this. So let's skip ahead and draft. So already, I'll wait until TT walks into. It's probably the Orn. Okay, so already, a collie ban. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of this. However, Z is really good at it, so it makes sense here in terms of like it's a target ban. Similar thing with Zoe. I think at least in terms of Z being really good at her. She's also just like very good. You won't see her in APAC a lot, but she fills a lot of the void. I think that is necessary in terms of magic damage and just her range. Plus, like even if you're not ahead, right? Like Sleepy Trouble Bubble is just such a good tool for like space control and engage. If you just like portal over a wall and then immediately Sleepy Trouble Bubble, it's really hard for like whatever sort of squishies. It's probably gonna be like a Zeri. Or like a Varus Kaisa, maybe even a Zaya as well. But like if you do that, it's really hard for the whatever squishy you have to react. And since there is a lot of mobility in the game right now, that stuff is super useful. On the other side, you see Hecarim, you see Ziggs, you see Jax. So this is what I've been talking about in terms of uh, I've sort of talked about it in other like I think I talked about it in the co-stream a little bit. I don't like when teams ban bruisers on 1 and 2 right now in the meta because you have three really good bruisers. You have one, you have two, and you have Fiora, which will be F. So if you ban a bruiser here, you get yourself into a weird scenario, or here as well. Like basically starting from this point onward. If you ban bruisers there, you get into this weird scenario where like you could end up in an awful mismatch if red side decides not to ban or blue side decides not to ban. Otherwise, keeping two up, Fiora versus Camille is I think pretty fine. I don't like the Camille side, even though a lot of the WRL teams are opting into playing Camille. I think she's not actually that good. It just looks like she's losing lane a lot in terms of like she goes down a lot of CS early and like, I think Fioras can play to punish even harder than they already are. I think that they're just not playing the matchup correctly. Um, what you'll see, especially post like 5, is a lot of Fioras will continue to like use your post super aggro, which I don't think you can do within the matchup. I think that you need to hold it for the Hextech ultimatum, and like even if that means that you don't actually use the riposte, I think it's fine because Camille doesn't actually have that many abilities that she can trigger on a quick succession cooldown if she wants to maximize her damage, right? Because if she pops Q, you can probably get 2 Qs off in the time frame that you could on Fiora. I think it's just very difficult for Camille to actually win that matchup if the Fiora holds her post. If she doesn't, Camille's going to have free use of Hookshot and free use of Hextech Ultimatum, and that makes that matchup really hard for Fiora because Fiora's going to get trapped there. It's likely to be followed up by some sort of gank. We've seen the Hextech Ultimatum into Shenald combo a ton of times. Hextech Ultimatum into Galio ult, obviously, as well. Classic combo. And so I think that that's stuff you really have to be careful to avoid as a Fiora. And that's why you need to hold that Hextech or that riposte. Because just holding the threat that you can cancel out the Hextech Ultimatum, right? If they pop Hextech Ultimatum and you hit riposte, it doesn't actually go on. It just bounces off. That threat is more useful than actually using the power from their post, unless the Camille is actively going to stun you using hook shot or something. I think that that's the biggest issue that I have with that matchup. On the other hand, we've got the Ornn. I want to talk about Fiddle a little bit later. I'm gonna dedicate a little bit more time to him. Ornn probably second first best support in the game, especially now that Gragas is gone. It makes a lot of sense to pick him. I think Ornn Gragas are like the 1-2. Then you've got like Galio. Nautilus has really fallen off a cliff for some reason. Doesn't make sense to me as to why. He's gotten no patch changes, no nerfs. Um, Especially with Gragas banned, I don't see why FPX couldn't pick him here. I don't think he's necessarily the greatest matchup into either Ornn or Gragas, but since they're already on the board, like you have Nautilus and Alistar, you could also take away the Galio if you're like thinking that they're gonna flex the Ornn top lane, but I think that's pretty unlikely. On the other hand, the Fiddlesticks. So I've been talking about Fiddlesticks. I've been playing him a lot. I got like 15 games on him or something. Nothing super like coordinated in terms of like actually having scrims because I don't have a team right now. LFT still, by the way. But I think that Fiddlesticks is really interesting and like I think that a lot of builds on him are still being refined. I'm personally a big fan of Leandries. I think that his E-poke is really good. I think the silence on that is really good as well, right? Stuff just like E Fear is just a very good start, and then you can just kind of repeat that over and over and over again until the enemy just doesn't have the resources necessary to fight you if you don't have your ult up. Because I think right now he is super reliant on the ult with how I see him being played. Especially in like he's been banned a lot of times for competitive. There's only been a few games of him, but like especially at a ranked level, I think that he's really relying on his ultimate to get value. And I think that building Leandries takes the power out of his ultimate without necessarily weakening him. Right? It's not like it makes him weaker, right? It just redistributes the power a little bit, and that's why I like it. It also synergizes pretty well with his kit, which is already a lot of like burn damage percent HP on his W. So I think that that's just very good as well. The other thing that I like to consider is I think that you can do a lot of different builds on Fiddlesticks as well. I'm not a huge fan of like Riftmaker first, but like I think you can go like Luden's Leandries first. There's probably like you could go Crown first as well. Crown's been a super popular option for AP in competitive. I only like Crown in competitive to start. I think that if you're not playing it in competitive, you're kind of trolling. I think it's pretty just no damage if you don't have it. I think you could go Boots Medjai's on him. I don't think it's that good as compared to like your traditional APC. Like I really like Boots Medjai's on like the Zoes, the Ziggs, Karmas, Luxes, traditional APCs types like that. Because I think that just gives you more of that early power to get that wave clear, while he already has a very good jungle clear with his W. So I wouldn't be super worried about that. Okay. So here we see Lucian Fiora locked in 2-3, and then we see the Evelynn here. So I don't like the Lucian lock in here. I think Zeri is just better in terms of ADCs. I prefer Zeri. I prefer Kaisa. Varus I don't really like. I think that he doesn't take advantage of what's good in the meta, and the way that people build him also doesn't take advantage of what's good in the meta. I just think that he's not that great. The other thing with Kaisa and Varus is that people like to go these fucking dog shit like Duskblade into AP item builds, which make no fucking sense at all. It doesn't like maximize any value of any build. I talked about it in the G2 Blacklist Final Co stream, but basically they'll go like Dusk, and then they'll go like I don't know Rift or no, what was it? They go like Duskblade into Nashers. That's what it is. Duskblade, Nash, and then Rift or AP items. Riftmaker is just the general AP item here. And like it's just so much anti-synergy because like this sort of works with this and sort of works with this, but these two don't work at all. And so you've got like this weird like, oh, well these two sort of work together, but they don't work with this. And like none of these items want to be together with more than just like one of the other items, right? Like you can have two here, right? Like you can have one of these two or one of these two, but you can't have all of these three together. Then it's bad. And that's what you'll see a lot of Kaisa's and Varus's building, and it's just god awful. Fiora spoke about earlier. I like her into Camille. I think she's very good right now. Um, Also very good in terms of how she can play the matchup. I think that a lot of top laners are misusing their riposte though. Um, so that's the biggest thing in terms of what I'm looking at here. Evelyn. So we've seen a huge rise in Evelyn in terms of like how she's being played. Obviously she benefits hugely from the AP item changes, right? As did all mages. But she was already getting played. We saw the Ashe Evelyn a lot in terms of how good it was. Um, Ashe has sort of fallen off because of how the crit item changes work, and crit's really good right now. Uh, but because crit is good right now, that means Ashe is bad because Ashe can't actually build crit. So that's the thing to keep in mind there. But Evelyn in general is just very good. She's just a very good playmaker, right? Invisibility forces your enemies to play like a really tight, constricted game where they have to be aware of everything at all times because like you can kind of pop out of nowhere and just surprise people. It's also just very good. Like her ult is a flash, and having two flashes is really nice. Yeah, like it does good damage. She's like a very good jungler right now. She sort of fills the niche that like an old Gwen would have pre-nerf. Uh, so yeah, I also don't like the Lucian pick here because so looping back to this a little bit because I was reminded of it the moment they banned Alistar, but I don't like Lucian here because they haven't shown mid, right? They've shown jungle, they've shown support, and they've shown uh, top, right? You can these are flexes. I will give them that these two could potentially be flexes. Like you could flex Camille jungle or in top, but it doesn't make a ton of sense to do that. And like if you lock Fiora and then Alistar or Nautilus here, I think that you just win the game. Uh, And so I don't really like that, right? Because I think that Alistar and Nautilus are just way better in terms of what they're doing for the draft here. And I think that like you can kind of hold your mid lane pick here, because if you don't hold it, you don't have to ban anything out. Like they do have first pick, right? Because they are red side, so they could go like Lucian, Zeriban, but you still have like Jace up. You still have a bunch of like you still have like Jace Kaisa up, so you can play the mid lane. It's not that hard. I just think that like cutting the support options out that much is not great. Zaya ADC ban makes sense. Do keep in mind there is the one ADC rule. The coach of G2 Blacklist has stated that he thinks that the meta would be the same without the one ADC rule. I disagree. Uh, but I understand like his logic. Basically, Bloodthirst is really good right now, and we were already seeing a lot of ADCs creep back into the meta. The Xayah was creeping back in. Things like Illusion and the Kai'Sa Varus were creeping back in. So that is important to keep in mind. I think that the meta would be similar, but I definitely think we'd see more AP champs, and we might see a lot of ADCs dropped in terms of prio. I don't think they'd be as high prio as they are, since there is the rule that you do have to pick one ADC. Covering the Ashe. Like I said, the Ashe isn't great right now because she can't take advantage of the best crit item. She can't take advantage of crit at all, but she can't take advantage of Bloodthirster, which is the best crit item right now. Giving that extra 1080, I think, base plus whatever in terms of attack speed as well. So they do actually lock it in. Ashe Evelyn was pretty popular in WRLA 1. A lot of J Team was playing it. You'd see 0711 on that Evelyn, and then Pan on the Ashe, which was the pretty common tactic. On the other side, likely to see that Zeri lock in. Braum. Okay, so yeah, we see Ashe here, and then we see the Vladimir. Okay. So I don't like Braum here to begin with. So let's start with like Zeri. I like. I think that Zeri is good. I kind of like Ash here. It makes sense. Like it's just Ash is a good vacuum pairing, right? She doesn't like necessarily synergize in terms of like theme, right? Like she's more of a poke champion. This is an engaged champ. This is an engaged champ. This is an engaged champ. But the way that she is allowed to play the game with her ultimate and how short of a cooldown it is, right? She is able to function as a pseudo engaged champion, right? And that's the most important thing, right? Is that she doesn't she doesn't theme fit into this composition, but individually, right? As individual pairings, Ash is just very good with all of these champions. I don't really like Ash Ornn. I don't think that's that great of a lane. I would have preferred like Ash Gragas or Ash Galio, but Ash Ornn is fine in terms of how it plays lane. On the other side, I don't like the Braum. The reason that I don't like the Braum is, first of all, I think that Braum is not great. I think that in terms of supports, he's probably the worst. It feels like Braum here is just an answer to Ornn and Ash, which is pretty common. Braum's shield can block the Ornn ultimate, which is why he's very popular into the Ornn. But he doesn't really fit with anything that's going on here, right? Because you have like a dive champion, you have a champion that wants to go in, you have a champion that wants to go in like a dive champion, and then another champion that wants to go in, and then you have Braum, who's like a protect champion, who doesn't want to go in and like wants people to run at him. So it's like, what's your team actually doing here? I think something like the Nautilus is way better here. Again, I don't know why he's not picked here. I understand the logic, but I just don't like it. Vladimir also makes sense. Like I don't really like Vladimir to Lucian. I feel like that's probably a bit of a risk. But at the same time, Z is probably one of the better mid laners in the league. Uh, Up there with like obviously I think Amrant's probably the best mid laner, but I think Z is up there as well. With the top tier mid laners. So starting off, immediately we're gonna see early vision in the river here by SkyFL. Follows me on Twitter by the way. But this early vision is a bit different than what we've seen from a lot of other teams, which is where they will try to put vision here or like out here or like in Krug pit just to get some early vision into jungle. There's still a chance Dawn 128 does that as well, right? Could go that way. Um, and so we will see if he tries to do that. I believe he will opt for it here. It makes sense. Yeah, so opting for this. Um, so the biggest question here is if Camille saw this, right? If Camille sees this, what the Evelyn should do is skip Krugs. For those of you that have watched some of my videos before, you'll know that I am an advocate against skipping Krugs, right? I think that generally it is very important to full clear. However, this is one of those scenarios where it is okay to skip a camp because skipping a camp provides more than the gold that is provided by the camp itself, right? So when you skip Krugs here, it means that they have no idea where Evelyn is, right? She could be anywhere from basically here to here, right? She has this big ass, let me read that. She has this big ass box to work with, right? And so that means that they have to be aware, especially Fiora doesn't have to be scared, right? Fiora's not scared at all because she knows that Evelyn's not top. But they know that Evelyn could have started blue and is like doing a three camp. Uh, she could be pathing top side and doing something weird. Like there are a bunch of options if you don't know where the jungler is, and so that's why this early jungle vision is important, right? So in this case, it's better to skip Krugs and like make sure that these two players have a bit of fear and like where is the Evelyn, right? Because if you don't see her on Krugs early, you're probably likely to assume that she's going this way on the jungle clear. Um, it's a bit less likely on Evelyn than something like the Jarvan. But someone like the Jarvan or the Evelyn, even then, like if they're coming in, they just like do a drive-by gank on mid lane, take like a chunk from Zeri, and then continue their clear. It's still very detrimental, especially if Zeri starts losing the lane early. I think it's really hard to beat the Vlad. Okay, so super early trading here. So again, strengths of Lucian, strengths of Braum. They are both individually extremely strong level 1. Braum, he will usually take Q, stack his passive, and just get those stuns right. Lucian as well, using his passive to get the extra auto attack, right? Instead of getting 2, he gets 1 for each auto he does after spamming an ability. Also, just a very high base damage in general. You can see they burn, I believe, Exhaust and Ignite here, and then they still are able to kill Soil. So that's a great start. In response, the Ornn will get the kill on the Kong. So SMY trades back, right? So you go 1 for 1 here, but this is really good for FPX, and you feel great about this because Ornn got the kill here, right? So Ornn is 1-0-1. Let me actually do this slightly differently. So in terms of ADC, we'll say ADC here supports here, okay? This will be the divider between teams. ADC here is 1-0-1, or 1-1-1 actually. 1-1-1. Support here is 0-0-1. Here's an assist. No. I messed this up. My bad. He has 1-0-0. I don't know why I'm thinking he has 2 kills. So he has 1-1-0. ADC over here is 0-0-1. And then support here is 1-0-0. So again, already a big advantage here because especially, right, they get plus 150 gold for First Blood. So it's a 450 kill. Plus the support here has the kill, which means that the ADC is actually losing out on about 300 gold. Okay, runes. Brutal, Giant Slayer, Bloodline, Second Wind. Interesting. This is interesting. We'll talk about this in a second once we get to Camille. Gathering Storm, Giant Slayer, Bloodline, Overgrowth. Fiddle has a really nice flexibility for this rune. You could go Red Tree on him as well. Something like Sudden Impact into Mark of the Week and then like Zombie Ward, I think is fine on him as well. But like this rune is really flexible, I think, for what Fiddle wants to go. I know a lot of junglers prefer Overgrowth or Tenacity if they're going non-yellow tree in terms of that, but Overgrowth is just the tank rune, so it makes a lot of sense. Combos very well with Bloodline as well, just more HP to regen, like you're actually gaining more HP, so nice. This is the popular Zeri setup that we have here. So Conqueror and then Brutal into Giant Slayer. This is swappable. I've seen both Bloodline and Lethal Tempo or Alacrity here. And then Bone Plating pretty standard. Pretty standard as well. Kraken Slayer standard on Lucian. Green Runes standard. Interesting Braum going Font of Life over something like the Giant's Belt or the Giant's Strength where he gets the shield on a stun. But these two are pretty much standard for all supports. Some supports go Demolish here. I think that if you're confident in winning lane, you should go Demolish here. And I think that going Demolish is like just a sign that you're confident in yourself. I like to see Demolish here because I'm generally not a big fan of water walking. I think that it doesn't actually provide that much value for what it is. Like, you're buying Warmogs anyways, so you don't need to worry about health regen past 6 minutes. So why do you have water walking? Like, when Demolish will help you get to Warmogs faster anyways, right? So I just think Demolish is better there. Similar statement here. I think we'll also start to see Aftershock come back I think if Glacial gets one more nerf, Aftershock will probably come back. That's what I would expect. Standard rune setup for Ashe here. This is pretty standard for Vladimir from what I know. I'm not a huge expert on Vladimir in terms of what he's going to have. Standard Evelyn stuff. Okay, cool. Now we can talk about the Fiora. So the Fiora goes yellow and then single green. What's been really, really popular for 90% of top laners is going triple green, one red, or one yellow, depending on what you want. It sometimes you'll see a lot of this is like the standard setup for a lot of top laners. So the reason that I think that the Fiora goes this set is because she is confident in beating the Camille in lane here. That's sort of referencing what I talked about earlier, how I was like, I think Fiora generally like stomps Camille early and then should stomp her later, but she's gonna end up losing the matchup probably because if she doesn't use her post well, that's gonna be like the biggest issue there. But I think that this is like the biggest indicator to me that this Fiora feels really confident in lane and this Camille doesn't. You can also tell this by going Fleet. Fleet is one of those like I'm losing lane runes to me. I think that like if you're confident in winning lane, you're probably gonna go Grasp here. I also just don't like Fleet in general. I think that like the extra health here is beneficial, although I think it's a bit less useful if you have Overgrowth. So that makes sense. This is just one of those little details I want to point out. Like I said, I'm gonna be going into a lot of depth here if I can. So hopping back onto the jungles, we'll see double red start here. I don't know about fiddle jungle pathing. I haven't practiced and messed around in it with him enough in practice tool to know. I'm pretty sure blue clear is faster. Not to mention, I'd want a path bot here. Um, anyways, that's just me though. So, pretty sure, number one, I'm pretty sure the Evelyn saw this ward. You can see she starts red, and it looks like she's going towards Raptors and skipping Krugs, which is good to see, right? Creating that early pressure in terms of like, hey, what's going on here? Like, where is this Evelyn? Do we have to be worried about her just appearing in a lane at like, 220 and killing someone? Uh, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of this fiddle pathing. I think that if you're gonna do like a fiddle, I think that pathing to bot side, especially in competitive, in this volatile of a matchup, is better. Obviously, he can't reactively do it to like, oh my ADC got a kill. I'm now gonna path a bot. Like that doesn't make sense because you're just gonna be so much slower on your clear. But I think that like you're expecting this to win, right? I think you want to leave them up here alone for as long as possible, and you just want to match what is likely going to be the Evelyn's path. Although you don't know that for sure, especially because the Evelyn's dodging your ward. But the other thing to consider is like Lucian, super early game champion. And that's, if Ashe gets set behind and like people have levels on her, suddenly her arrow isn't as useful. I think that it's just more valuable to path bot here. Also, 2 kills on Fiddle is game over. You got to remember this is pre-hotfix. The hotfix will not come into effect until I'm not sure what time frame here, but I just know it won't. So, god damn it. I wanted to talk about this lane, but we are getting a replay. So yeah, you can see here, Brahm's just gonna hit Ashe with the Q, and then he's just gonna walk at her, right? He's probably just gonna walk at her, auto her like 3 times, and then she's dead. And then they're just gonna trade sums. Kong taking the tower shot there is, I think, probably what ends up killing him, which is a bit unfortunate, but it's worth it in terms of like, hey, I got the kill, first blood. It's worth. As long as he doesn't get like owned in lane because of it, it's fine. Why are we on the most boring lane? Oh my god, man, why are we watching mid lane? So this is just a range matchup, and Zeri can't really push anything super aggressive early, and I wouldn't expect to see Vladimir trying anything early either. There's not a lot to be gained from like cheesing a kill. You can see no denial of XP, basically same amount of gold. It looks like. Looks like actually SkyFL missed a CS here. Yeah, or missed a. Looks like he missed a caster based on the amount of gold he's down. But yeah, nothing's happening here. Nothing's going to happen. This is the interesting lane. So, what we saw earlier, right before uh, the replay, where Fiora was sitting like right here and then moved this way, and then Camille had to back off this way. Let me use different colors for that. So Fiora was sitting like right here, right, and then she moved up this way, and then Camille moves back this way. Again, that was just good denial of XP from Dawn 128 there. So he's just denying the Camille XP, which is the advantage that you get. It's also like It's also why I'm like just slightly confused that he went yellow. I don't think that's necessarily like the optimal if you're gonna try to dominate lane. I think that's more of a scaling choice, but like if he thinks that he can win lane with this setup, I think that's more power to him. Like what you want to try to do here as Dawn 128, especially because your jungler is coming up this way, you want to just stack a big ass fucking wave and then crash it into Camille and then have Fiddle sitting like right here, Crow Storm over, and then get a big kill plus a few turret plates. You can see because of how the wave state is, he doesn't actually have to worry about losing the cannon. Right, once the cannon draws aggro, tankiest minion, he can then F4 to go back and grab the honey fruit to match a bit more HP. I think it's a bit interesting that Zin is trying. Those misses, yes. Uh, sorry. I think it's a bit interesting that Zin is autoing as much as he is right here. Like because I think that that is just risky in terms of like the timer that you're on. Like you want either the wave to crash like super early if you're him, so that you can get the bounce and then just have your jungler roam topside or your support roam topside to cover you while the wave bounces. Or I think you'd want to just hold it here. Like you just want to avoid the crash at like 215 to 225. I think that's about the timer that he's looking at here. Fiddle timers are weird because Fiddle just has such a fast clear. Again, it's weird that Dawn is autoing here to me. I think that he can just try to hold wave, and he is fine. He might just be trying to thin as well, which is, I think, totally fine as well. So bot lane is turbo fucked. So it looks like Evelyn ditched bot lane in terms of her pathing. She's roaming up top. Not sure if they have info on Fiddle or if she's just matching to go grab Krugs later. But they have a freeze here, and so I would expect this bot lane to not do so well. Interesting that Chow's down this much XP. Like same amount of procs on Relic Shield, still down 200 gold. Is interesting because it only should be like 50 from the Ornn. Although the Ornn might have CS'd some of the wave when they got the kill. That might be the difference here. Anyways, this lane is Jover, I think. Like I think that at this point they're just gonna freeze, and once they hold the freeze and they're like, okay, cool, we're ready to push it out, it's game over. Why is he? Okay, I that's weird to me. I don't see why they're autoing here. Like, first of all, the autoing fucks him up in terms of he. Wait, no, that's Kong. So Kong got the CS actually. Yeah, so they both got the CS there. But I think autoing fucks him up in terms of like the freeze. Unless they're trying to get the bounce, I don't see why they'd auto. Damn, I was exact on my timer. That feels good. I wasn't sure about that one, honestly. So yeah, this is the biggest issue in terms of like, oh, this is where Camilla's at her weakest. She's level 4.5. There are two people topside. Fiddle with for ult and first strike ready. That said, they know that Evelyn is here because Evelyn roamed to cover, which is a really good roam by Evelyn, right? This is a really good cover in terms of just being here on time. So there's no actual gank opportunity because if they go in, the Evelyn will just follow up and then kill them both. So yeah, that's just good run by XBy here. Oh, I guess they're still going for it. That's that's a bit sus in my opinion. So the fact that this gank even happens is, I think, a massive mistake from XBy. Um, I was going to make another video on it, but I didn't because I didn't want to watch EDG again because they played like fucking ass. But I think XBy has been getting gapped a lot, and it's like if I'm looking at weaknesses for Thunder Talk, I think XBy is probably the person that you got to look at in terms of how you're gonna exploit him, because he just hops into the turret here or he just hops into the bush here, and then just lets his top laner get ganked. And like they hit it on the end of the timer, right? Because 225 wave comes, and then you're probably fine. But yeah. That's so bad. Okay, so what's bad here is the wave didn't actually. So I guess that's fine. I mean, I think there's no good option for Camille here. I'm gonna be honest, but I think you'd want the wave to either like slow push out. Oh no, you don't really want the wave to bounce here either. I guess full reset is good. Full reset is probably the best option here. This hurts because like Camille's gonna miss probably both these can. She's gonna miss at least one melee. She could miss both, I think, if things go like horribly wrong and Fiora gets to the lane first and is able to set up like right here, and then she can't like walk into the lane because Fiora will just zone her. But I think that like this is probably the best case scenario because if it slow pushes out, you can bet your ass Fiddle's gonna be sitting right here waiting for a gank once the ult timer comes back up in like a minute. So I think this is probably the best option. Unfortunately, it just sucks because Fiora is gonna get a massive lead. It is nice that it is a cannon at least because that means that Fiora can't crash and deny Camille the entire wave. Wilder is also super forgiving in terms of like how it actually takes so long to kill minions. Okay, cool. So I'm not sure why FPX broke the freeze here. I haven't been paying attention to what's happening in bot lane. We can go back and check real quick. Uh, oh, we're in a replay. So when did they break the freeze? It was like 2 minutes, wasn't it? Yeah, so they break the freeze at like 2 minutes, and nothing really happens. It just gets to a reset. Is X by trying to get a mid gank here? So yeah. In the meantime, it looks like we got a roam from the Zeri. She's gonna just reset and then go back mid. Vlad probably has mid prio at this point, so he's gonna roam. He's got his move. So they know that Fiddle is here. So the biggest weakness of Fiddle is if you close distance on him, he's an awful skirmisher. His W actually doesn't do a ton of damage early until he has his like first item, and it doesn't give you that much health regen without like some sort of creeps, like specifically jungle creeps in his range. So he's pretty awful at skirmishing. So I think that this Fiddle is actually pretty collapsible on if this Ashe hits 5. Like if this she probably she got 1/4 level. She could hit 5 off this wave. So if she hits 5 off these minions, expect to see an enchanted crystal arrow here into like a charm and then hate spike follow up. So she hits 5, like, jump on the Fiddle, and then everyone does it. Yeah, like I said, just really good. They don't actually use the enchanted crystal arrow, which is really nice because this means they have it for either a mid or a top play in 20 seconds. Because it does have a pretty long cooldown early. I think it's like 50 to 60 seconds, if I'm not mistaken. SkyFL after getting his mid prio back. So what happened there? SkyFL pushes out midwave, roams here, recalls, right? Vlad then gets to roam as well. He moves down here. SkyFL comes out, gets his reset on the wave, and then he gets to move as well. So just good ping ponging of waves there. Forced to burn exhaust there. It's unfortunate, and the Vlad dies, or the Braum dies. This is also really nice for both Thunder Talk and FPX because it's sort of a natural lane swap in terms of what. I hate that I have to use spacebar to pause play. It's a natural reset in terms of like, hey, uh, Lucian's gonna go back to base, lane swap, and then so will the other team as well, the Ashe. So yeah, this lane is not going well. Obviously kill already given over. Fiora's got a Sheen recall. So Fiora, because of that kill, right, she gets Sheen boots off of it. Camille only has boots on that recall. Doesn't even get a Ring of Revelation, so big impact in terms of kills. You can also see XP difference here. Did not mean to do that. 6 and about 3/4, I'd say, almost. Right? Like right there is about 3/4. Versus literally just hit 6. So really going horribly for this Camille at this point. You can see also she's getting zoned off the wave. At least Fiora's doing her best to deny XP. Skyfall gets ganked but lives. What happens here? Because he did burn exhaust. So you can see, I believe that's the Vlad pinging it out. So if you look very closely here, like right here, where that marker shape is, see right there, there's an on my way ping. Probably from the Evelyn if I had to guess, because it looks like she just kind of runs down here and ganks. Interesting that there was no enchanted crystal arrow here, or it might have just missed. It's hard to tell. Because it looks like they do have a move in terms of Ashe. Anyways, love to see the people following me on Twitter winning in WRL. That's always a great sign. Definitely I'm the difference maker. Nothing else. There's no other factor. In fact, if FPX had followed me, the entire team on Twitter, they probably would have won this game. That's the difference maker, if I'm being honest. So again, I wanted to pause. Not I clicked with my mouse and hit spacebar at the exact same time. So you can see here, although the map hasn't updated, there's a vision right there, vision right there. Red buff just respawned, so they know that. Or it's been respawned for a few seconds at least, but deep vision in towards the enemy red side. This FPX roster is also really nice. Mixture of old J team and then so it's a mixture of the old FPX core. Pretty sure it was Chow Dawn 128 that stay on the team. Uh, no, Dawn 128 was J team, and then Sky FL was previous FPX as well. He's been on the team for a while. So just a nice mix of players. Good use of the Orn Pillar there. So a little quirk that people might not know about the Orn Pillar is when it goes out like this actual this pillar thing gives you about uh that much vision around it. To scale on the map, obviously. This is way bigger than it actually is. I just drew a donut. But that's about what the vision cone around that looks like. So if you do need vision onto the most common scenario that I often use it for if I'm playing support is imagine this is either Drake or Baron Pit. There's this blast cone back here. I'll just put the pillar like right here on top of or next to the blast cone so that I can have vision over it. Or if I'm like trying to be really cheesy, I'll try to like aim it directly on top of the blast cone so that it's like impossible to hit. Um, so that's a tech issue right there. So he might want to put this ward down anyways, but in case you don't want to put this ward down, I'm not 100% sure on this. Feel free to fact check me. But I believe that Zeri can just, because she can aim her auto attacks, right? I believe she can just aim her auto attacks over this wall and it will trigger this anyways. I believe you don't need to actually have vision over the vision cone. The reason that you would often put this ward down here, if you are playing like a Kai'Sa or something, is so that you can actually auto it because you need vision to auto. But Zeri doesn't need that. So, immediate things to notice in terms of builds. first of all, not going towards any of the vamp boots, going towards the mercs in regards to trying to stop the double AP team composition, right? They got Evelyn and Vladimir. The other thing to notice is what I've highlighted here, which is he is going for the Manamune build, not the Bloodthirster build. There are two builds, which one of which is Manamune Triforce, and then like whatever you really want afterwards. It's probably going to end up being like Manamune Triforce, Runaan's Bloodthirster, something like that. Maybe a Mortal Reminder in there as well. Versus like the Bloodthirster into Runaan's into like Mortal Reminder. You can kind of throw whatever else you want in there too. It's normally good answers. You'll see a lot of Mauve Malmortius if you go that Bloodthirster build as well. Taking advantage of the Runan spread. Um, the answer that I've liked into AD has been like a lot of weird stuff, so I'm not going to talk about that because I'm still experimenting there. Okay, so immediately double crown start. This could technically be Riftmaker, but the likelihood of it being Riftmaker is very, very low. So you can see here the Evelyn doesn't have the first item because they opted for boots. This is what I wanted to talk about because this is a nice little springboard for me to talk about what I wanted to talk about. Yay! Um, I don't actually like boots in competitive. Obviously, I've been a big advocate for boots Medjai's, which I think is slightly different because Medjai's sort of functions as a full first item, but specifically on junglers. And I say this specifically on junglers because junglers have the ability to consistently have the most resources in the game. They'll usually have around 33 to 3400 uh, at about 420, 430, even earlier if you get a kill. And so the reason that I say that you should always go your first item on junglers is specifically because you can actually amass a sufficient enough amount of resources to get your first item consistently, and especially in the early team fights, that first item is a huge difference between maybe living and not living, or getting maybe two more kills, some extra gold in terms of like a smite fight, just stuff like that. Super valuable in terms of how it'll actually play out in the team fight. Other than that, Cosmic Drive Vladimir starred. Probably gonna be Black Cleaver Ash, makes sense. Going Warmugs. Gonna be that Bloodthirster, it looks like. Talked about the Zeri already. Both Fiora and Camille are normal builds. I'm going to take a slight sip of water. Hopefully nothing interesting happens. Oh boy. So first thing, immediately, T tier late to the objective, right? 516. Um, that's already pretty late in terms of timer. You can see that the Herald literally just got killed. So the biggest issue with this means that, well, they can they can contest Drake. If this was like a Shen or something, you'd have to be really fucking scared because he can just ult and then dash this way and he'll cover basically all this ground. But the other issue is that like Herald versus Drake, I think is a fine trade. Herald plus kill versus Drake is really like, oh, we're getting into kind of snowball territory. Uh, because oftentimes like the Herald kill and the Drake kill offset themselves in gold. I think it's 300 for each. But if it's not a direct trade and they like get some kills on the side as well, it's generally in the favor of whoever got the more kills because that sets you up in a lot better position for that second Drake fight, which is really important if you're the team that got the first Drake. If you get this first Drake, you really want to get that second Drake to get a lot of Drake pressure because if you can get the Drake pressure, you'll win games. It's super important, especially with the soul as it is now, to get Drake pressure. And that Drake pressure will translate into a lot of like forced fights that maybe the enemy isn't actually comfortable with that you can get away with a lot more than you normally do. Anyways, love to see the guy that follows me on Twitter cooking here. Gets Prio against the Vladimir, shoves him in, and you can see now he's roaming up to make a fight on the Devlin. I'm hoping he just pops ult and runs at her because that'd be, I think, the best play, right? If you can just force this, I was almost if you can just force this Evelyn off this Drake, you have just won your team like a great victory. Because it just makes it so much harder to play the game if you get double objective here. Because you can also see right here, dropping the Rift Herald. So right now they have like a double threat in terms of we're gonna kill your mid lane tower and we're gonna, force you off of Herald, right? So there's a bunch of map pressure happening right now. I'd like to see the Fiddle do a drive-by. What I mean by that is you just walk here, you pop your W, and then you continue walking. Like just thin this wave out a good amount is all I want to see. And then that's about it. Oh, I don't like that. So the reason that he does this, I'm pretty sure, is because he like sees the Vlad here. He's like, okay, I'm just gonna get out of the pressure and like attack this from a bit of a safer angle, because he still has flash up, but it sort of maybe stops any way that they were ever gonna get the Drake. So yeah, they burn a bunch of ults here trying to get a kill or two afterwards, are unable to do so. That said, they do get that mid lane turret, which is very valuable. Mid lane turret is the hardest turret to knock down in the game. Remember that. So you can see also if your Camille shift down as everybody else shifts down. Just good covering in terms of wave management. That said, 2k gold lead already feels really nice. 1.6k, so it's dropping as waves are getting collected. It'll be interesting to see if Camille has Thunder. If she doesn't, that's very dangerous. So Greg or Braum actually not opting for the Warmog's armor first sort of makes the water walking play a little bit more okay in hindsight. I still don't like it. I also just don't like Dawn Shroud start. I don't think it's that great right now. Um, yeah, it's like okay. Dawn Shroud has sort of become the item of choice over something like the Armament Swing Guard, for like both armor and MR. It's a bit hard to monitor jungle with this overlay, but it looks like they're just clearing camps right now. It looks like we've just reset to ping pong wave status. Interesting that they've swapped the matchups here. So you can see Fiora into Vladimir and Zeri into Camille. This Zeri should be very scared because, as we can see right here, this is going to be coming down that way. Evelyn's going to be coming down that way. Sorry, muttered. Camille also having a Hex Tech ultimatum is slightly dangerous. Oh, and look at that beautiful ward placement. Love to see it. Again, so this is just good team coordination. This stuff is why I like to review these kinds of games and not fucking APAC games where shit just randomly happens. Uh, not looking at maybe anyone in specific like Nous versus I Innovate game one. Maybe never. But you can see right here, XBY sees this, I'm pretty sure, and then calls for Camille to jump over. So it looks like Jin's just clearing this ward when he's actually just making a path for XBY to go through. That said, to do so, Camille drops Prio. So this is just good fucking fundies, man. I'm a fundies sucker. So we're gonna go back here because I want to talk about this in a little bit more depth. So what happens here? You can see wave resets. XBY sees the control ward. So he calls for Camille to come up this way. Let me draw this on the menu app. So he calls for Camille to come over here and then clear this out, right? Well, in response, what Zeri's just gonna do? She's gonna push out the wave. And so when Zeri pushes out the wave, it means she can't be ganked because that means that okay, let's let's take like a step back. Um, a wave right now is 200 gold. This is 80 plus 60 plus 60. So that's the base wave. With a cannon wave, it's 220, and with a double cannon wave, obviously, it'd be 240. So 60, 80, 40, 40, and then no, it'd be 240. I'm doing my math wrong. 240. I forgot that it's the cannons that get replaced, not the or it's so instead of a melee getting replaced, which is 60, it's a caster getting replaced, which is 40. So it's 240 plus 40 gold, and then a double cannon would be 280. So even if they do kill Sky FL here, right, and they drop the entire wave to do it, they're not actually gaining that much. It's only like a plus 100 gold play. which isn't that valuable, and they also waste a bunch of time. Evelyn shows here, which means that they can make a play on this side of the map. It's not actually worth it once the wave is pushed out. Especially, you can see cannon there, right? So we'll just do the math right here in front of you. 60 gold, 120 gold, right? 60 plus 60. That is 160 gold plus 40, and then plus 80, 220. What the fuck? 60, 60, 60 plus 40, 160. I can't fucking do math. Okay. So 80 to, yeah, so it's 240. So the reason, little math lesson, since apparently I can't do any fucking math, I just split this 8 up into 240s, right? And then, so this plus 60 is 100, and then this plus 60 is 100, and then we have an extra 40 left over, so it's 240. So even if they killed the Zeri, that'd be what, 300 gold, and then 150 for an assist. So they're only gaining minus 240. So what, 140 gold play? No, it's a 240 gold play. So it's only 240 gold, right? It's a single wave. That's all it is. It's not actually that valuable. It's much more valuable instead to make sure that there's no play that can be made on top side in response, right? Because you got to consider the moment the Evelyn shows here, they can attempt to make a play here, they can attempt to make a play here. And so it's just not worth it. But this is just good fundamentals, right? Because XSpy makes the correct play, right? He makes the correct play in saying, hey, there's a ward here. I need Camille to come do it. Camille, when there is no wave, right? She does this when the wave is coming in, not like as it's crashing. So she's not going to lose any minions here, or at least she shouldn't. If my timing math in my head is correct, right? So Camille is not going to lose any minions, and then Zeri makes the correct play as well by just shoving out the wave to protect herself. It's just this is good fundamental stuff. Yep, not going to lose any minions. So FPX have mid-pile here, which means they can finally get off this recall to let Kong get his first item. Probably going to be that Bloodthirster. So SMY shows that the fiddle is topside. So again, once Sky FL, Zeri gets shoved out here, he's able to move towards top lane once he gets his reset off. Fjord does the same thing, resets, goes bot. Fiddle is hovering, so Fjord can push this out a little bit more aggressively than normal. So she was able to get that reset off versus somebody who probably would get shot against her normally in the Vladimir. Again, just another note. Vision control. God, I gotta get better. I gotta get better at this. Vision control from the Ash, right? You can just see the hawk shot going this way. Um, spots out this in terms of the fiddle. The most important thing against fiddlesticks is vision control, right? Because if he is in vision when he is ulting, that means that he is not going to get that fear effect, which is probably the biggest part of his kit, right? Obviously, his damage is insane. Let's make that clear. But the amount of CC that fear gives you in terms of like just timing is super valuable as well. So yeah, you can just see here, not going great for Camille. She's gonna finally be able to get her first recall off, but she has to recall as a non-cannon wave is coming in, which means Fero's gonna be able to shove it in and probably get this turret, as well as deny the entire minion wave. So this is a good choice by Camille to stay. Even though she's obviously in probably the worst spot you can be in here, in terms of like this Fiora has a single kill. That's 300 gold. She's gotten a 1k natural advantage just by like being able to farm better and by defeating the Camille in lane, which is huge. She's been able to get anti-regen, which stops any sort of like shenanigans from Camille in terms of her W. She's also got ignite. She's got ultimate. Like this Camille can do nothing right now. She also can't recall because it's not a cannon. She's gonna get denied the entire wave. Gonna lose out on a ton of experience and the game's only going to get harder from her. Even if she does get her first item, she can't actually compete. Um, I'm gonna say it here because I haven't said it previously. Um, but it's important to remember that base levels are stats just like items are. So denying people XP is just as valuable as denying people gold. I don't know if this is intentional from XBuy, but it looks like he's running in the way of Fiora's retreat path. In which case, this is an insanely smart play. So he runs this way, right? And he stops like over here. And so when he stops like over here, as the Fiora runs into him, she's actually running into the vision. Because right now he's outside of this little circle, right? You can see this little circle in terms of where the vision reveal is. So she's gonna run into it, and then he doesn't even have to worry about his vision getting revealed. Just good play. And so again, this is the difference that I'm gonna sort of point out between the control word and not having the control word against Evelyn. And it's like, again, it's a very, very small thing that is like a tiny little detail, but it's the difference between him living and dying here. And it's something that I'm trying to focus on better as a coach as well. Like I'm not going to deny that, but I'm planning to use this as my new coaching reel, so I'm trying to go in depth here. But I think that there's a lot of nuance and detail that is missed in terms of the non-Chinese regions, and this applies to anybody that's in WRLA. It applies to multiple teams in WRLA in terms of nuance and detail. I'd say it applies to pretty much everybody in the APAC conference except for like maybe two teams so far. But there is a bunch of nuance and detail in how you play the game, and that is so fucking important because details matter in terms of like living or dying. And when you die, you're going to lose a wave. And when you lose a wave, you're going to lose a bunch of XP, you're going to lose a bunch of gold, and it'll allow people like the Camille to get back into this game, right? So he doesn't have a control word like in this area, right? Remember what SkyFL did, right? Had the control word right here. And so as the Camille comes along this way and the Evelyn retreats, he retreats right into the Evelyn. He doesn't have the control word. He knows the Evelyn is here only when she shows way too late. It's already over. The gank's already happened, right? And she's dead. And this gank happens at an awful time, right? So now this wave is coming in, right? So that kill, 300 gold. Plus 240 gold that she's going to lose out on the wave. Plus, if they can kill the turret, that's another like 200, 300 gold as well, right? And so suddenly you're like, oh, 1.4k. Now it's only a 600 gold lead if this Camille can shove this all in and maybe get the turret. Wow, the Camille's now back in the game, right? Like, again, nuanced detail matters because it's very, very important. They're gonna be here to catch the wave, which is nice. But again, let's talk about map pressure. Let's talk about macro. So they clear wave. They get shove here. They do I think a really good response here from FPX, which is they send Lucian up top after he clears wave, and then they send these two bot. So basically, it's a 2-2 split, and because there's no mid prio, there's nothing to worry about, right? Because the issue right now is that there's a ton of side lane pressure, right? So FPX has a bunch of push here, but because they have a 2v1 up here, right? 2v1, they have push. And because they just got a 2v1 down here, they have push. So FPX has a bunch of issues on the side lane in terms of pressure that need to be resolved ASAP. Okay, so this is just, again, this is, I gotta fucking talk about it because it's just good shit that So I'm gonna talk about it. And I'm gonna use myself as an example. So I was playing ranked recently. Never good for anyone. I walk up here because this is bot lane. Pretend I'm on red side. Pretend we're over here. And these guys had shove. Caitlyn, Nami versus I think like Lux Jin or some shit. Random ass bot lanes as usual. I walk up here. I'm a jungler. I hit this honey fruit. I send it this way. They continue to shove. Right? They shouldn't do that. And the reason that they shouldn't do that is because they know that somebody is here. And so what this is a really smart play from both Kong and again, this is one of those like nobody makes the wrong decision, which is why I love talking about like this game specifically because I think that this was one of my favorite games in WRL so far because it's just so fucking good. So first, they get vision over Kong right here. He's going to immediately hit this honey fruit and he's just going to say what this says is I'm here. It just he's not like he's not gonna walk over here and like walk into the lane and like leech XP, leech gold, right? He's staying out of gold and XP range. He's just saying that like if you all continue to attack this Zeri, I will walk out at you and I will do a ton of damage. And that's it. And it's just TT recognize, well, we can't afford to take that much damage, right? It's the enemy area of the map. So we're just gonna let him walk forward and back off. And that's it. And then they're going to attempt to shove again. Because they know that this area has been forced out. She probably has to recall. And so they can attempt to make another play. So this was this was good idea, poor execution from Thunder Talk here. The idea here is that Orange should be in front of this wave. Like these two should walk into cannon range, and Orange should be like right here. And he just wants to like make sure that the turret aggroes the minion, right? So he wants the turret to be boop, 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 shooting the lasers at the minion, but he wants to be blocking the hey, he wants to be blocking the Lucian ultimate with his body. He doesn't actually do that though, so Lucian gets to clear the wave and there's no play. Again, right, you can see Ornn try to move in front of the wave, doesn't actually get to do it in time because of how Kong plays it. So just well played by both teams again. Like nothing was poorly played about that on either side. Obviously the Ornn could have executed better, but like it wasn't like it was a poor execution. So this is just again fucking good shit. Oh, so um I'm not sure if the Ornn pillar that was here saw this control ward. Either way, this ward is extremely smart, right? Because it okay, let me put it this way. This ward could have gone wrong, but I think it's still very smart from XBuy. So the reason I'm a big fan of this ward, right, is because he's placed it from over here. So they have no idea who this is. Um, it doesn't look like the Camille's on wave right now. You can see the dots right there, which I believe are wave. Um, I'm not sure if the Ashe is on wave on either. So I can't tell. It doesn't look like it. There's no like little dots here. You see these little dots. That's what I'm looking at. You can see the little dots like right here through the Vladimir almost. It's really hard to see. But if you're, I've watched too much fucking WRL not to notice this shit. The fucking little tiny dots that are minions. So they don't know who this is. They just know that somebody plays a ward. If there's a ward in this bush, right? But there's not a ward in this bush. There's a ward just outside, which isn't gonna see anything in here. So he's just like, okay, cool. I'm gonna move in here then, and once I move in here, I'm gonna check this area. He's able to see this right here. So the moment he knows, the moment he steps out here, he's no longer invis, and he's gonna have to be on vision. So he's just gonna sit there and watch. He's gonna sit here, and then as look at this timing. Look at this timing. Look at this execution. Look at this. Okay, so Ash Arrow is flying in right now. Okay, You need to avoid it if you're FPX. He immediately drops the charm as he walks out of this bush. No longer hidden, right? Remember, no longer invis. So what's going to happen here? You're going to watch. Ornn, Ash Arrow, Charm, Death. Fucking beautiful shit. Okay. Could have been done better. But again, this is one of those like, this is why I like the Chinese conference and not the APAC conference. Because in the APAC conference, this shit is fucking. So what happens here is, you can see here, the Braum is actually just gonna, I think incidentally, it doesn't look like it's on purpose because he's literally knocked up while he's doing it. Yeah, it looks like the Ash Arrow just misses because you can see it just kind of curves into him instead of curving where it needs to into the Lucian. But it curves into the Braum. The Braum gets stunned instead, so they're not actually able to finish the Lucian off easily, which means that the Vladimir has to go in too far, trades 1-for-1, instead of actually being a clean 2-man kill. Again, details, right? A single missed ability transforms this play from a 2-for-0 plus maybe a turret, right, into a 1-for-1. Nuance details. I'm going to stress this because I don't usually talk about this stuff a ton, and I think it's important. I'm also learning more about it as I, like, attempt to learn more. Oh no. Don't like to see that. So, so first of all, this is just, I hate to say it because he does follow me on Twitter, but you gotta call these guys out. This is a laser recall. As Zarya, I don't think that there's any excuse to ever get caught, especially like this, because you can just run over this wall and you're out. Like that is the worst part about this to me is that like if he just takes the over this wall, he's out, and he can just recall in this bush safely. Although it's not as safe because there is a ward there, but like he doesn't know that. Like I just it's a lazy recall. I don't like it. Also, again, he holds flash. I think for just way too long. I understand. Like the logic here is that like he is trying to not burn flash. He's like, I don't want to burn flash. I don't want to like waste it. I think that it's fine to just burn flash. That's my take here, basically. That said, gotta talk about this. So he's gonna ult right here. Crowstorm's gonna be out yay big. He's gonna rocket belt this way. It's just a really good play. Flash rocket belt, boom, 2 kills. Like I said, this is why I prefer Rocket Belt over Stasis, because it gives you like Fiddlesticks' effective range, right? Like you can see how short that ultimate is for what like you'd expect a Fiddlesticks ultimate to be if you've like watched a bunch of PC League or something, because like it just looks longer in that game. I don't know if I'm tripping, I might be, but it just looks longer in that game to me. But just like the ability to ult, flash, Rocket Belt gives him so much excuse me, distance that like he's still allowed to cover a ton of ground, and it's great. Makes this play that like is not a negative or is not a positive play into a super positive play. SMY not able to get there before the recall happens, bit unfortunate. Again, because he just killed the Evelyn topside, they know that they can start Drake safely, and they get it. So the biggest key for this is this removes all Drake pressure for the third Drake. FPX no longer have to contest it. They can if they want to, and they probably will because it's good. It's just generally a good idea given how Drake's stack, but they don't have to, right? It's not a must contest. It's a can contest. It's a should contest, not a we must contest. So again here, looks like Fiddlestick just walks up trying to defend the turret. Uh, with no ultimate, Fiddlesticks is super weak. As you can see here, like I said, if you close distance on him, he can't skirmish at all. Stunned, Vladimir Pool, and then Vladimir E, and then he's dead. Uh, it's probably fine though because he saved the turret. Positive goal play. Also gives Zeri a chance to get back here. So yeah, very valuable. What are we looking at for builds? Um, looks like that's gonna be Hullbreaker or what? Sterix maybe, probably Hullbreaker. I like Hullbreaker here. I do not like this Fiddlesticks build. I think this is bad. Like I said, I think that if you don't build like straight up damage on him, like a Ludens or a Leandries, I think that you do end up lacking damage a little bit. As people continue to tech into MR, I think that you sort of do end up lacking it. Um, I understand the Awakened Soul Sealer because you're ahead, but I just don't like them both together, especially because you really have to build Rabadons here, meaning that like if you're gonna build a really heavy damage item, it's gonna be like held for 4th or 5th, which I think is like just way too long. Ash going the pretty normal build. Instead of going Nashers here, what is more popular is Runans. Runans is just better generally on a lot of ADCs, so that makes sense. This is pretty much the standard Evelyn build that we've been seeing throughout WRL as well. So again, just talking about like again the benefit of this mid turret, right, is that you can see FPX here. They're able to make a lot of plays because they can shove the wave into about here and then move. Versus like you can see that Thundertalk are having to play like way back here. Let me just mark it on the minimap, like way back here before they can actually push wave out. Because they can't step up this far because they don't have a turret. Very useful. Why that herald is super important. Again, gonna say it again. 2K gold lead is not over, especially when most of that gold is on the Fiora and the Camille. You know, like if there's a fight with these 4 members, it's an even fight, and like the game can swing. So important to keep that in mind. This is also super valuable because people are gonna forget about it, but the new tab mechanic that shows you exactly how much gold you have is insane. It's so good for competitive. Obviously for ranked, who gives a shit? Nobody fucking cares. There's gonna be one guy with like 10k, one guy with like 7k. But like you can. This is so good for ranked because you can track how your entire team's doing. You know whether you're winning or losing. Like if they're just farming better than you. Like you don't have to look at just individual gold scores and tally them up anymore. It's just so good, and it's like you have so many tools to know exactly where your team is at in the game. It's actually just insane. Another benefit of Ash as well now, because Riot is fucking stupid and gave people timers on red and blue buff, is that if she just fires a hawk shot, she'll know whether your red or blue buff is up, and she'll know the next time it's up, even if she doesn't actually get vision on it. Looks like Fiora might get ganked. I don't know. Bit of a weird fight. Yeah, I don't. If it's solo versus an Evelyn, especially while Fiora has Hullbreaker, I don't see any reason to go for that. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Fiora has push. Mid lane has push. The only place that doesn't have a lot of push is top lane. Again, you'll you'll notice that the way I speak about things is indicative of how many turrets they have because at like the highest level, whether you have push or not should be dedicated based on your turret because that determines the amount of space that you have to play with. Because like normally, right, you can see where like if both teams had their turret, ADCs would position like around this area, supports would be around here, on opposite sides as well. So like right here and then right here, right? If one team has a turret and one team doesn't, you can see that like supports positioned here, ADCs positioned here, and then ADCs here, supports probably be here. If Chow is playing like aggro, he's probably gonna move up to like this area. But you can just see how much distance that allows you to cover in terms of like having your tower versus not having your tower. SMY is really aggro. Like, that's some really aggro movement from SMY. So putting Fiora weak side makes a lot of sense here. Like even if you don't like Fiora into Vlad, I think that just putting her on the side that is like the weak side, which is probably top right now, makes a lot of sense. And like even if you're not gonna play weak side top lane, as long as this area just doesn't get killed, it's fine. Because especially because Fiora's really ahead right now, like she's basically the entire gold lead. There's no issue with playing through her, even if you originally had designated her to be weak side. So they do know Evelyn's here because they did get that crack of the shield, I think. Again, Baron pressure, interesting. Interesting how the team that plays at super high levels, both teams that are very good, put pressure on Baron, right? You can just see they kill this ward, immediately force another ward to be put down. They're probably gonna kill this one as soon as possible as well. And then once they do, they might just hit it a few times. They might fake it, but they're just gonna try to force them into here, either through this way or this way. Interesting. Maybe they don't have sweeper or control ward that's up. Because it feels like you want to get rid of that ward as soon as possible. Just make that Baron side dark. Why does Fiora lose spot? Oh, they just don't clear it. Because you can see here, Zeri swaps with Fiora, but nobody actually clears bot wave. Camille's able to bounce it out and get the turret. Again, they're just creating pressure here. Let's everybody get their recalls off, buy items if they need to. Just getting good mid prio. We've reached the phase of the game where it's a lot about just ping-ponging waves and who has a better wave state. And then once you have a better wave state, what fights can you take? And once you take a fight, can you like make the most of it? Blah 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 blah. And continue, continue, continue. Nice invade here because they do have prio, which is a little bit nice. Like getting prio in this scenario is not something you expect to happen, but you're never gonna complain. Especially because you do get the invade. Game is basically about even now, which means Camille's probably back in the game. Vladimir's going for rabbit eyes. If you're going Bork here, nothing else that really builds into Fiora. Rabadons, Bloodthirster, I'm not sure what the creature shard is building into. Maybe the new blaster item, building into the Warlock's armor. Not building into Dawn Shroud. Interesting. What does that build into? It's not Fawn. This Fawn is no Magic Mantle. I don't know. Again, pretty standard Evelyn build. CC instead of Stasis is interesting. I don't see that a ton, but it makes sense. Uh, the meta's been really nice in terms of enchants because you can see like actually a varied in terms of like stasis, rocket belt, cleanse, stasis. This could be a stasis as well. But I think that's fine as well. Comet is again the most popular enchant on Camille because you just ult and then Comet straight on top of it. Yeah, so at this point, it's all about wave management, right? It's like, hey, push wave out, maybe, try to lean somebody over here to push this wave out, and then we do that, the mid wave will be bounce again, so you're gonna do this, and then, once you do that, you can then try to get somebody on bot side. Given that they're playing double squishy, by double squishy, I mean you have a squishy champion here, and then a squishy champion here. We've seen, if you remember WRLA 1, there was a lot of Senna flying around, so you'd see like single squishy with like AD mid, or you'd see like there were some weird like Senna Cass scenarios that got played like twice though. I was a really big fan of that though. Yeah, so double squishy generally means you can't have like a dedicated side lane matchup because it's very risky with the Evelyn now that she has like 3 items, right? You don't want the Zeri to get ganked. So you're probably gonna move as like a pack of 3, and then just have the fiddle play rotate. The biggest issue with this is you need to make sure that you're like rotating properly. I don't I don't like having Sky FL so grouped. So I don't like 4 grouped. I think 3 is fine. But if you're gonna have 3, you need to have Fiddle clearing this wave. But you don't want Fiddle to show when Drake is up. I just don't like how close this wave is into your turret. Although it does look like it's bouncing, so that's fine. Hold up, let me. Yeah, this wave is gonna bounce. I think it should at least. I'm not 100% sure. Either this wave is gonna slow push in or it's gonna bounce. I can't tell for 100%. Because it looks like there's yeah. So basically, how I'm trying to determine if the minions here are in tower range, right? Because if they're in tower range, it's going to slow push out. If they're not, I think it's gonna bounce. Or if they're not, I think it's gonna crash. So what do I mean by, oh, is it going to slow push out or not? So once this wave gets like slowed here, it means that these 2 waves, the next wave as well, is going to sort of get collapsed into one. And so that means that it's going to slowly push in this direction. Uh, what do I mean if I'm saying it's going to crash? If these minions are outside turret range, that means that these guys are going to be lower, the minions over here, the blue ones. So this wave will eventually get bigger and bigger as it slowly overwhelms these waves, and there will be like 1 minion left, 2 minions left, and they sort of like form this like snowball down this rolling hill, right? Where first there's 1 minion, then there's 2 minions, then there's 3 minions left, and suddenly it's a full wave crashing into the tower, and that might actually kill the tower. It's how we've seen a lot of like the split pushes end games and stuff. Especially that's way older though. That's like WRL season 1 icons time frame. Even like the wave management at the end of the day is insanely better. So Dawn 128 here is like playing a very risky game, but this is great intel. So first of all, the moment you know this, you see that like circle over his head. That means that he knows that Evelyn is nearby. So he knows that they haven't started Drake. He knows that Evelyn and Camille are in this area, and then pretty sure they have vision over those 3. So this means that this fiddle is safe to come back, which is really nice. Fiddle having Rabadons is very good for the team here. The only issue is they don't have vision over Infernal. I would hope that this Eve it doesn't show on this wave. We'll see. I can't tell if she did. I hate Spectator. Okay, so Eve has definitely not shown. However, she again the moment you see that signal, that like half eye. We'll go back a few frames. Let me pause right there. The moment you see that, I don't know if he saw it because it did. Like, it blinked, right? That's a blink for like, whoa, second. The moment you see that, though, you know the Eve is nearby, which means you should probably release your dragon this way. And then when you do that, she's going to have to come from this way. And then the Fiora will get a natural flank. Again, there's no hurry to do this Drake. You have until like 1730, I think, or later. It might be like 1740, 1745. So Dawn 28 is just going to start it up. He's just leashing it out right now. He's not actually thinking that he's going to like finish it. He's waiting for somebody to make a move, right? FPX is just trying to start some sort of team fight. They want to fight. They want to fight right now. The best way to do that is to hit the neutral objective and force people to walk into them. Um, so they're leashing it up for two reasons, I'm pretty sure. Number one, they've got just more presence up here. And number two, this fiddle is right here. So when they leash it up, you're going to draw people either from this side down or from this side up, like I have this arrow. And so when you do that, this fiddle is big loving it. So that means that he can ult either on this way or on this way towards the other side. Oh, fiddle man, why did you just burn your first strike proc? Okay, we're gonna have to. So first of all, I don't like this. I understand exactly why he's doing it because he wants to force this Camille back a little bit because I think he's probably well, rightfully scared. But he burns his first strike proc. They know where he is, so that means that he's not going to be getting as much value either. Like that is not a valuable E. And then as they do this, they engage, so it's not great. They don't actually get a ton out of that, which is really nice because Proto Belt gets burned, but they know Fiddle's there, so they can just kind of run at him. Like I said, Fiddle is really weak to gap and space closers. So he's going to go this way and pop the ult. This is a really nice ult, but there's no follow-up. Like, look at this, right? One, one, two, three, four feared, but like literally only the Evelyn's not feared. But Sky, FL, Chow, and Kong can't really follow up on this. Yeah, so they lose Drake. Probably gonna lose mid turret. Oh, they're gonna lose Baron as well. Oh, that's unfortunate. Again, this is one of those times where it's like really valuable to have vision on Drake because Zeri might just solo this if they knew that they weren't doing Infernal just slightly earlier. I respect the attempt here. This is a really good play, in my opinion, by the Zeri. Not just because he follows me on Twitter. I swear to God. Uh, but because you see, like, you're like, wait, Baron's up. Drop the control ward, see if they're doing Drake. Because they're either doing Drake or Baron, one or the other. They're not doing both at the same time. It doesn't make sense. And if they are doing both at the same time, you just try to pick off the isolated member that's here. Because this is less important. But when you do this, you're just trying to like force this down. If you leash it out, you get a reset. Maybe they don't actually get the Infernal versus like maybe you even get it yourself if they don't actually like check it at all. It's not a bad play in terms of like risk reward, especially if you can get out. So wave advantage is going to be hugely in favor of Thunderhawk or FPX now, or no Thunderhawk. Why did I correct myself to the wrong team? But wave advantage is hugely in favor in terms of Thunder Talk. It's really hard to clear those Baron minions. Again, we sort of see the Braum there, the use value of like stopping the Ornn ultimate. I don't really think it's that useful because literally any other champion can do that with like a Nautilus hook or like a Gragas cask. It's exactly the same thing. Oh, they're not gonna. That's unfortunate. So, this is gonna be a banger. But so right here, you see the Ash Arrow come out because we are in Team Fight Central at this point. It is literally just about how you team fight the game. Like the game is just team fighting from here on out. This is a great team fight though, because 1740, right? Elder spawns 20 seconds. Baron probably about 45 seconds left. So if you win this fight, you guarantee Elder you can neutralize the Baron. So first, stop the Ornn ultimate from Chow. Then, as the Ashe walks in, and as TT and Soil try to get out, he's going to stun them both up. Oh, the Vladimir just got out. 1 second. Did the Vladimir, how does that work? So he's still in. Oh, he just got out of pool. I thought he was still in pool because of that. Oh, I thought it was a transfusion. My bad. So yeah, stun them up right here. Lucian's going to just pop his ult, firing that way, free firing onto the Vlad and the Ashe. X-Bike can't really do anything. He's sort of out of the fight already. If Jingdo 7 he wanted, he could probably even ult into this area as well, just as extra follow-up. I don't know if he has ult off cooldown, though. Skyfell's going to flash over the wall, and then, attempt to follow up as well. Go over. They're guaranteed they wanted to do Infernal here, but they can't. Elder's a nice consolation prize. Yeah, you can drop. So this is normally I will lambast teams to no end about dropping midwave, but I think this is probably the one time that it's fine. And it's a context-based decision where I'm like, I think this is okay because like you have 5 alive versus 2 alive. To backdoor, they'd have to knock down 2 turrets, and like they don't have a like Evelyn's not a fast turret taker. It's only Camille, so you're pretty good there. If you're Thunder Talk, you just hope for a miracle steal here. Like I'd like to see the Camille just try to hook shot over, burn the crown from the fiddle, and then miracle steal. Fiddle ults to secure, that's fine. I was like, I don't know if that's worth, and then I was like, no, it's definitely worth to get Elder. Like if you get Elder for a fiddle ultimate, oh yeah, I'll take that any day of the week. Zin here isn't making it out of this one. Oh, he does. Again, I'm gonna hold your fucking riposte, Fiora mains. This is again exactly what I'm talking about when like look at how badly she's rolling this Camille, okay? But the moment she uses riposte, it's over. Because this Camille now knows, oh, I can just do whatever I want. Like, obviously, does take a lot of damage. But like Camille is a very heavy burst champion. She already used the meteor. She already used her Q. It's fine to just hold out and like play the long game here. Oh no. They do burn Zeri ultimate. That's not great. So Thundershock have a huge advantage here. Huge Baron, right? 3k gold lead. Now it's just can FPX get like some sort of play back with this Elder Dragon? The answer is probably no, because Drake doesn't provide you those minion buffs, which is again a big reason why like Baron for Elder trades. I prefer Baron. The minion buffs are super useful, but yeah, that's just me. So what happens here? He just gets obliterated. So you can just see here, we'll just fast forward slightly. He's going to pop the Q3 from Z, rocket belt forward. He's got the enhanced Q as well. Enhanced Q. What the fuck? How does he die to Ashe? Does Ashe pop her ultimate? Is that what that is? Oh, probably a Runaan's proc. I was like, well, how does she die? So then they get the support as well. Now it's get the fuck out time, and it doesn't look like that's gonna happen. Again, Elder Dragon doesn't make you invincible, and that's the biggest issue here, because now game is over, right? They just, you catch out the Lucian, and then you catch out the Braum, right? You catch out individual fights, and then once you do, it's really hard to actually take fights as a group. Overall, I want to point out that I think Thundertalk, after watching this game in specific, we're going to talk about game two later. But after watching these games, I think that people should have a greater FPX appreciation for FPX. I think they're 1-1 right now because they lost to Thunder Talk, but these were two close games. And this was a close game if we're actually considering what happened here, right? Like if that Infernal Drake fight doesn't go the way it does, and they're able to clean that team fight specifically up, I think FPX should probably have taken this game. Which is crazy that people were talking about Thunder Talk being like an S tier team. I think that this game made me a little bit less gung ho on them because they looked pretty weak. That's all from me. As usual, make sure to follow me on Twitter at MBlazeBQ.